All right, let's take a look at our projections for the SEC East. And again, this is not an official prediction from SG1 Sports. It's simply a projection based off of our record projections that we did a couple of months ago, where we went through each team, did the schedule preview, gave you a projected record. A lot of things have changed since then, and just with these rosters of players transferring and everything. But this is still what we're going to go with, just for a rough projection, and we're going to take a look at just what the national narrative is for each of these teams, what everyone's kind of expecting them to do, and then putting that against the schedule, or how good everyone is expecting these teams to be, and then putting that against the schedule to give you a projection. So let's go through, and we're going to start at the bottom for the SEC East. And at the bottom, we've got Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt projected to go 1-7, 4-8 overall. And again, when we talk about the conference and overall records here, you can maybe change it, tweak it just a little bit, because our projections were based off of the overall records. We didn't divide it up and do a conference projection and overall projection. So if you change a non-conference game to a win or a loss, that could change the conference record up or down a game, depending on the team. So Vanderbilt, again, 1-7, 4-8 overall. Can the Commodores win a conference game? It's going to be tough. I really think it's going to be tough for them. But there will be some opportunities, and there'll be some teams that, with Tennessee and South Carolina, they can play with them this year. I think both of those teams might be down a little bit as well. All right, we've got a tie at number 5, and that is between Tennessee and South Carolina. Both teams projected to go 2-6. Both teams projected to go 5-7 overall. I put Tennessee ahead because they have home field advantage in their game against South Carolina. So 2-6 for each of these teams, and 5-7 overall. And again, these are conservative numbers. I think these are numbers, though, that can really give you a good idea of if a team is going to have a good or bad season based off of if they do better or worse than this number. So if Tennessee does, or we're talking about the same thing here with Tennessee and South Carolina, and we did have both of them losing a non-conference game, South Carolina to Clemson, Tennessee to, I believe, Pitt. That's how we had to make the math work here. But if for both of these teams, if they go 6-6, I think it's a good year. I really do. If they go 4-8, I think it's a bad year. So 5-7 is kind of that line where you want to do better than that to have a good season, and obviously you want to get to a bowl game. So 5-7 there for Tennessee and South Carolina. We also had a tie at number 3, and that's Kentucky and Missouri. Both teams projected to go 4-4 in the conference, 7-5 overall. And I'll tell you what, I think both of these teams have a great chance in their non-conference games that we have them losing here with this scenario. Kentucky to Louisville, Missouri, Boston College. I would pick Missouri and Kentucky to win both of those games, but to make the math work, I had to make the conference schedule, or record, I should say, 4-4, because we had the 7-5 overall. But you could change that and say they do go 7-5. If they win those non-conference games, then they're going to be just 3-5 in the SEC. So you're talking 3-5 or 4-4 in the SEC, 7-5 overall. And again, when we did our projections, it was based off of the entire schedule, the conference schedule, the non-conference, everything. And so it does make it a little bit tricky when you're trying to put these numbers together. But 4-4 would be the conference record. And I put Kentucky ahead of Missouri here just because both teams, I think, or because they had home field advantage. Of course, that's why I put Kentucky ahead of Missouri, home field advantage. So anytime there was a tie, I just put the team that had home field advantage ahead of the other team, but it's a tie here with Kentucky and Missouri. Both teams projected to have pretty good years. So let's go to number 2 now. That is going to be Florida. Florida 5-3 in the conference, 9-3 overall. And again, you look at that 9-3 number. If Florida goes 10-2 this year, I think it was a really good year. If they go 8-4, it was a disappointing season. So I think that is one thing with these projections. I think they do a good job of really just kind of showing you what the expectations are for each team. And again, if Florida can get to 10-2, I think it'll be a really good year, probably a New Year's Six bowl. 8-4 will be a little bit of a disappointment. I know they lost a lot, but with their schedule, this team can get to 9-3, I think, and maybe more than that. But number 1 in the East, it's Georgia. Georgia we have going 8-0, 11-1 overall. So again, with the math that we had to do, we had to give them a loss to Clemson and then have them win the rest of their games in the regular season, win all their conference games, go 8-0 in the SEC, 11-1 overall, and that's just the way the projection worked out, to where they would lose a game, and it may not be Clemson. They may go 7-1 in the SEC. They may beat Clemson, but just for the sake of doing this video and putting putting standings on the page for you, that would have them losing that game to Clemson. But like I said, when we did our projections, it was based off of the overall record. We didn't break it down by the conference record, non-conference schedule, any of that. So for Georgia, they have a pretty clear advantage here in the SEC East. 8-0, a 3-game advantage over Florida in the projections. I think this is a pretty good projection. I think Georgia is the team to beat in this division. I think Florida's probably the second best team, then Georgia, Missouri behind them, then Tennessee, South Carolina, then Vanderbilt. So again, I think the projection came out pretty accurate. Now, will these records be perfect? Probably not. Some teams will probably do a little bit better. Some teams will probably do a little bit worse. But as far as the order goes, I think, again, these projections are going to be pretty accurate. But Georgia, clearly the team to beat in the SEC East.